Earlier this week, the entertainment world was shaken by a piece of news that no one was prepared to hear. Cleto Escobedo III, the beloved bandleader from Jimmy Kimmel Live, passed away at just 59 years old. The headlines spread fast. Social media lit up instantly, and tributes poured in from fans, celebrities, and colleagues who couldn't believe this gentle, talented soul was suddenly gone. But behind those headlines, there was a much deeper, more emotional story unfolding. A story only those who knew Cleto personally could fully understand, because this wasn't just the death of a musician. It was the heartbreaking end of a long, quiet battle that Cleto had been fighting behind the scenes while still showing up every day with a smile, still bringing music to millions, and still being the dependable, calming presence everyone relied on. Now, the death certificate obtained by TMZ has revealed what really happened in Cleto's final months. And the details paint a picture far more painful than anyone realized. According to the report, Cleto died from cardiogenic shock, a condition where the heart can no longer pump enough blood to support the body's vital organs. To most people, it sounds like a medical phrase buried inside a news article. But to those who loved Cleto, it meant something devastating. His heart had simply reached a point where it could no longer carry the weight of everything his body had been battling, and Cleto had been fighting more than anyone knew. Cardiogenic shock almost never appears suddenly. It comes after months, sometimes years, of the heart trying to support a body that's struggling on multiple fronts, and for Cleto, that is exactly what had been happening. His death certificate listed several underlying conditions, each one telling its own painful chapter of his story. Vasodilatory shock, showing that his body could no longer regulate blood pressure on its own. Disseminated intravascular coagulation, a serious condition where the body forms clots and bleeds at the same time. A chaotic internal battle that doctors describe as one of the most severe medical emergencies a person can face. And then came the condition that immediately stood out: alcohol-related cirrhosis of the liver. Cirrhosis is misunderstood by many. It doesn't appear out of nowhere. It slowly builds over years, silently scarring the liver and weakening the body's ability to recover from even the smallest complications. It tells the story of someone who is carrying emotional, physical, and psychological burdens far heavier than he ever let the world see. But that wasn't all. The contributing factors listed were overwhelming: sepsis, graft versus host, disease, immunosuppression, chronic kidney disease, and pneumonia. Each one of these complications is devastating on its own, but when they appear together, it means the person was fighting on every possible front. Sepsis sends the body into inflammatory overdrive. Chronic kidney disease means yet another vital organ was failing to keep up. Immunosuppression, often unavoidable after major transplant surgery, left him vulnerable to infections. And pneumonia, especially in someone who is already weakened, often becomes the final blow. According to the documents, Cleto had undergone a liver transplant in September, and that detail alone reveals so much about what he had been dealing with long before the public knew anything was wrong. No one casually undergoes a liver transplant. It's one of the most difficult and high-risk surgeries a person can face. It requires months of waiting, endless hospital evaluations, strict monitoring, and emotional exhaustion that only patients and their families can truly understand. But for Cleto, that surgery represented hope. A chance at a reset, a possible new beginning. After years of living with pain he never spoke about on camera, while he performed night after night on national television, smiling, laughing, lifting the energy of the show, he was fighting a silent war within his body. But transplant surgery comes with its own risks. One of the most feared is graft versus host disease. When the body begins attacking the transplanted organ, it is unpredictable, aggressive, and tragically common. And for Cleto, it became the cruel twist of fate that changed everything. His body simply couldn't accept the new liver, and the complications that followed became too overwhelming to reverse. His death certificate revealed that Cleto passed away on November 11th, but here's what is even more heartbreaking: had been placed on ESMO, or extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. This is one of the most extreme forms of life support available. ECMO takes over the function of the heart and lungs entirely. Blood leaves the body, is oxygenated externally, and is pumped back in, essentially keeping a person alive when their organs can no longer do it themselves. People are placed on ESMO only in the most urgent, life-threatening situations, when doctors have tried everything else, when families are preparing for the worst, when survival becomes a matter of hope more than medical certainty. And Cleto was on ECMO in his final days, surrounded by machines, medical teams working around the clock, and loved ones praying for even the smallest sign of improvement. But on November 11th, the fight ended. His body, weakened by months of struggle, could not keep going. Just days later, the world saw Jimmy Kimmel walk onto his stage with tears in his eyes. For 22 minutes, he struggled, genuinely struggled, through one of the hardest monologues he has ever delivered. Jimmy said, "I've had to do some hard monologues along the way, but this one's the hardest, because late last night, early this morning, we lost someone very special, someone much too young to go." His voice cracked. He paused. He wiped his eyes. And for the first time in years, viewers saw something they never expected. Jimmy Kimmel, the man who can stay composed through political controversy, national heartbreaks, personal challenges, and heated debates, could not hold himself together. And the reason was simple. Cleto wasn't a coworker. He wasn't just a friend. He wasn't even just a band leader. He was family. Jimmy explained that when he was a kid, his family moved from Brooklyn to Las Vegas. And it was there, on that quiet neighborhood street, that he met Cleto. The two boys played together, grew together, laughed together, and became inseparable. Jimmy shared a moment that caught everyone off guard. One summer, I slept over at the Escobedo house 33 nights in a row. Think about that, 33 consecutive nights. That is not a casual childhood friendship. That is a bond so strong, so natural, and so meaningful that even as kids, they didn't want to be apart. Jimmy practically lived at Cleto's house. He loved the Escobedo family. He wanted to be around Cleto every day. And childhood friendships like that don't fade. They don't disappear as life changes. They simply evolve. That as adults, life could have easily sent them in different directions. But fate had something else in mind. When Jimmy's late-night show became a reality, he didn't hire a random musical director. He didn't go searching for Hollywood's top band leader. He called Cleto, and Cleto stepped into the role not as Jimmy Kimmel's employee, but as the childhood friend who had always been part of the journey. For more than 20 years, he shaped the sound of Jimmy Kimmel Live. He wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't need to dominate the room, but he didn't have to. His presence was enough. Behind the scenes, people described Cleto as the calm in the storm. Television can be chaotic. Production changes by the minute. Emotions rise and fall. Deadlines shift. But Cleto stayed steady. His energy relaxed people. His kindness made newcomers feel safe. His quiet confidence set the tone. Celebrities loved him. Crew loved him. Even interns talked about how gentle and respectful he was. His smile was warm. His musical intuition was effortless. With just one saxophone riff, he could change the energy of an entire room. And it wasn't just him, his father, Cleto Escobedo Sr., also appeared on the show at times. Together, they created a small but meaningful musical legacy on national television, a legacy rooted not in fame, but in family. That as the entertainment world continues to mourn, the full picture of Cleto's final months reminds us of something important. Behind every public figure is a human being fighting their own battles, some visible, many hidden. Cleto Escobedo III wasn't just a musician. He was a fighter, a loyal friend, a son, a man who showed up for others, even when his own body was failing him. He gave every performance his all, even on days when pain and exhaustion were overwhelming. He kept smiling, kept playing, and kept delivering joy to millions. And through it all, he stayed humble, soft-spoken, kind. In the end, the world lost a musician, but Jimmy Kimmel lost a brother, and the entertainment community lost a man whose presence brought comfort, laughter, music, and warmth to everyone around him. Cleto's story reminds us that the people who bring joy into our lives often carry struggles of their own, struggles we may never see. And for millions of fans, his music will live on. For Jimmy, the memories of that kid from Las Vegas, the friend who stayed by his side for over 40 years, will never fade. Cleto Escobedo III may be gone, but the legacy he left behind will echo far beyond the stage.